Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Arise News analyst Emmanuel Efeni. Good morning, Emmanuel.
Good morning, Ruben.
Good morning,
Tundu. And good morning, Leila. Good morning, viewers. We start with these day newspapers. Army challenges Ndume to prove 847 soldiers lost to insurgency. Masari Tambuwa seeks subvention for Northeast governors to end banditry. The New Telegraph has similar story. New Telegraph, Senate committee finding 847 soldiers killed by Boko Haram, buried in Borno. Ndume, military lacks equipment to prosecute insurgency war. So far, from the record we saw in the cemetery, I think we lost over 847 soldiers. That's from 2013 till date. And, of course, the army spokesman has come out to challenge Ndume to provide proof. The proofs are in the cemetery. That's what the man said. He said from the evidence they have in the cemetery, we've lost this number, 847. And he said some other things which I think the military should be more interested in the army. The need for more equipment to prosecute the war, rather than challenging the figure of the dead. If I were the spokesman, if we have a different figure, we simply present it. No, it's not this number, this is the actual number. But to say he should provide evidence, I don't think...
and in any case, if he doesn't provide the evidence, what will happen?
Yes.
So, I mean, it's...
there are more serious things.
It's a veiled threat.
Yes, so there are more serious things he has raised. The need for more funding for the war against insurgency. The army should be happy that they have a chairman of a committee on army that is concerned about what they need to prosecute this war, whether they are getting it or not, and whether they are going to make a provision for that in the budget, and which from all indication is not the case, because we are hearing of a case where you have 91% of the defense budget going for recurrent expenditure.
And less than 1% assigned to the Ministry of Defense. And then, of course, Senator Ali Ndume also commended the Nigerian troops for their commitment and for the sacrifice that they have been making on behalf of all of us. But I thought you were going to comment on the Northwest Intervention Fund that the governors of the Northwest were proposing.
Yes, in fact, I was coming to that, Ruben. All these governors, not only the Northwest, they all have huge security votes. For them to ask for any amount to come from the federal government, first, I will ask them to tell Nigerians how they have been spending their security votes over time.
First. Yep.
Yes. Then we will not be in a position to know whether they are spending it judiciously because they don't account for that amount. And any thing can be brought under that security vote heading, and money just fly away. So we want to know how they are spending their security votes before they even talk about the federal government giving them the money for...
No, but I had pointed out and I had given examples of what had happened in the past to say that there is nothing wrong with a special intervention fund, okay? Either for the Northeast or the Northwest or for, any national emergency as we had when we had the crisis of flooding. And there were fears that, food supply may be affected. And we were able to manage that, in certain states of the country that were affected. So it's not the idea of asking for support. It is what is done with the money. And our concern about what the governors of the Northwest are doing to address cross-border crime, banditry, kidnapping, is, as, Dr. Chidi Amuta argues today, on the back page of this day newspaper, that we hope that there's not going to be a bandit industry, that is emerging in a certain part of the country.
They seem to be creating one.
No, we've had some very disturbing articles in that regard.
There should be an outline If the money is provided, if the federal government buys into it, there should be an outline of what specifically will be done with that money.
You don't really need the money in the first place.
And the money, no, let's even assume, let's leave that to the federal government to assess. There'll be a needs assessment, of course, before the federal government will go and look for money. When the same federal government is asking for revenue mobilization.
No, that's why let's go to the, what are they doing with their security votes? So go and check all these things. They have huge security votes. What are they doing with it?
I don't know the exact amount. I cannot comment on the size of something that I do not know. But what I'm saying is that money should not be given to bandits, because they've been holding meetings. One of the items the governors mentioned is that they will use the money to facilitate dialogue. Nobody should use Nigerian money to go and encourage a bandit industry.
Yeah.
Because if you are giving bandits money now, everybody will opt to become a bandit.
Of course. Yeah.
Knowing that has become a source of livelihood.
Yeah, it's a form of employment, clearly.
Just like some people in the past say, I'm also a militant. I'm also a militant.
Exactly.
No, at the point, everybody from the Nigeria claims to be a
when
militant.
they saw the goodies, militants being sent abroad for training, they say, no, I'm also a militant. Okay.
You just go and get a gun from a blacksmith and you submit it that you have submitted your weapons.
Let's move on. Now, the Labour Daily Independent minimum wage strike put on hold as federal government Labour meet again today. Lagos ready to pay above 30,000. Sanwo-Olu, of course, the same story being reported by The Nation. In Gige, government can't meet Labour's wage demand. Parties shift ground as talks continue. United Labour Congress rejects strike plan negotiation. Then, of course, the Punch newspaper, Labour suspends planned strike. Talks continue today. Workers demand documents as federal government hikes salary adjustment. Lagos will pay more than 30,000, says Governor Sanwo-Olu. Now, the discussion, negotiation between Labour, and government continues today. Apparently, they are making some progress. And hence, otherwise, we'll have heard Labour saying perhaps the talks have broken down. But that is not the case. Talks will continue today. And let's hope that they can find a common ground. But with the Minister of Labour saying that they cannot meet Labour's demand. But since the negotiation is still going on, let's hope on both sides there can be some shifting of grounds with a view to arriving at an agreement that will avert a nationwide strike. Although United Labour Congress, the other Labour Center, is saying they are not part of the planned strike, they are not part of the negotiation. So what are they part of? Are they saying they are not going to benefit from anything that will come out of this negotiation?
Well, they're saying the strike is going to fail, so they want nothing to do with it.
But again, let me just comment on one side of it. You kept referring to the governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, promising that Lagos State will pay more than 30,000 naira minimum national wage. Well, let's hope that this is not just political talk, because, once he says this, of course, he has raised expectations. He's just new in the office. Has he checked whether the Lagos State government, in terms of what is in the treasury, in terms of other commitments, can pay more than 30,000? If it is based on facts.
Are you trying to discourage him not to pay?
No, I'm not discouraging him.
Because Lagos workers are listening to you.
No, it's not a promise he can make and then fail, and then come back later to say it was quoted out of context.
Okay, you mean he has a reputation?
No, don't put words in my mouth. And then he will turn around and say
because he has done so before.
And say that it was quoted out of context, or it was a reporter that misrepresented him. If it's based on fact and the capacity of the state to pay more, of course, that's very good. That will be in keeping with the principle of
Let's assume that he knows what he's doing.
Well,
let's move on, Ruben. Nigerian Tribune. PDP kicks as Buhari seeks Senate approval for 10 billion naira refund for Kogi. Attacks presidency over feud between Aisha Daura's daughter. Daura's family interference in First Lady's affair, shameful, Efeni. But let's leave the Aisha and Daura daughter's matter. Let's concentrate on this. PDP kicks as Buhari seeks Senate approval for 10 billion naira refund for Kogi. When I heard this news yesterday, the first thing that occurred to me is that why so close to the Kogi election, which is just around the corner? Because on the 10th of October, yes, the Minister of Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, conveyed to Nigerians and the states that the federal government is not going to refund any money used by states to construct federal roads. That, in fact, the president has said, leave my roads alone. To now single out one governor, if he's refunding to all states that are so entitled, perhaps I wouldn't mind, but to pick this governor that is battling for a second term, I don't want to say he's giving him election funds by another name, but he should have waited.
It appears that way.
It does appear that way. It does look like he is giving him election funds in another way. You've singled out
the
one
timing
state.
is
The
suspicious.
timing is suspicious.
We only have a minute to go.
Yes, okay. The British newspaper, of course, Brexit Times, the Times of London, Johnson hit by prospect of no-deal Brexit until 2020. EU wants deal may need 2 months to finalize. There is some progress, there is a prospect of a deal, but the time to wrap it up seems to be too short.
Yeah, they can't do any magic by October 31st, that's for sure.
Yeah, because Germany and France are saying that they have a number of reservations about the concession that has been made by Boris Johnson, Prime Minister Johnson, and they are even, the EU is even asking for more concessions.
Yes.
Beyond the...
That's what the Financial Times is reporting, Financial Times.
Beyond the customs border, down the Irish Sea. But and that's why, you know, it looks like Boris Johnson's do-or-die exit by October 31 may not happen. Yeah. You know, but let's see whether they're able to reach a consensus. And then, of course, that is able to negotiate further with Alan Foster, the leader of the DUP,
yes,
you know, who has been making certain objections too.
Thank you very much for the
headlines,
Mr. Efeni.